Things we've already done and things we are in the process of doing and our future products we have coming down the line. So on the agenda, who we are, and we'll talk about what we offer. I think a lot of you already know what we offer, but for those of you who don't, we'll go over that just very briefly. And what's new, what we got new in the pipeline, and then what's next. And then we're going to talk a little bit about engineering the Blackhawk way. So who we are. We're founded in 1999, and we're in Waco, Texas. What's Waco, Texas famous for?
Dr. Pepper.
Fixer Upper. Anybody ever watch Fixer Upper? That's our latest claim to fame. And the Dr. Pepper Museum, Baylor University, the Texas Rangers, we're talking about the police force, not the baseball team. So Waco's a great place to live. It's a great place to have a business because Texas supports our businesses, and it's cheaper to live there and cheaper to have a business there, and there's a lot less taxation and all that kind of stuff, so it's a great place. We are today the largest non-OEM seller of Pratt & Whitney PT6A engines in the world. And that's quite a feat, I think. The OEMs sell more than we do, of course, but we've been selling quite a few, and we're over 1,200 engines, factory new engines we've sold so far today. And I think we're just getting started. I think we've got a lot more. We have a worldwide reach. We have aircraft operating on every continent. We've got an airplane in Madagascar. Used to have one in Tahiti. We had to repossess that one. They stopped paying us. And Australia, South America, doing all kinds of missions. We have caravans operating in the Congo on mission trips and hauling medicine, supplies, food in and out of the Congo. And so we're all over. And it's been a long journey, and we love what we do. So here's our senior leadership team. My partner Matt Sheeman is here, and Dale Griffin. The three of us started this company in 1999 and built it over the years. And we built it with some really amazing people. So my wife is the Executive VP and HR Manager. She's not here today. Bob Cromer was supposed to give this presentation. He does a better job than I do, but duty called. He is busy, hard at work on our next project. Mickey Bitcon is our CFO, Supply Chain Manager. And of course, Edwin Black is our global sales manager. So what we offer, factory new PT6A engines. And in my opinion, the PT6A is the best engine ever built, bar none. And of course, I sell that engine, but I really believe in it. And I gotta believe in what I sell. So it is one of the best engines ever built, and we also do propeller replacements for a variety of aircraft. And we're providing engine. Our option is to engine overhauls. So you can overhaul your engine or you can buy new. And with a new engine, what a lot of people don't understand is you get the latest technology, you get the latest service bulletin status that you can get. If you overhaul an engine, which is a good option, you're going to get the minimum technology, or the minimum service bulletin status to be able to call it an overhaul. A lot of shops will do more than that, but for the most part, to keep the price down, they'll give you the minimum service bulletin status. Whereas new, you get brand new. More available power, improved performance, which equals increased safety and increased mission capability. For instance, if we have caravans that have much more horsepower on the engines for takeoff, and they're operating in the Congo, as I mentioned earlier. So they can now carry more weight, more people, more supplies in and out of shorter strips because they have the power to get in and out, whereas before they didn't. So some of these guys can only take 4 or 5 people out, and they get paid by how many people are on the airplane or how much weight they're carrying. Now they carry double that. Skydivers use the caravans for jump runs, and now with our engines, they can climb to altitude faster with a full load, and they can make 4 runs an hour. And each run they make money on it. Before they can make 2.5 runs an hour. So it increases their bottom line. And lastly, we try to always have a plug-and-play solution. Pratt was very smart on how they designed that PT6 engine because almost all of them are exactly the same size. You know, it's a little bit bigger, a little bit longer sometimes, but for the most part, the mount plane is in the same place. So you can take a larger engine horsepower-wise that has more distance side of it to give it more horsepower and plug it into the cowl and it fits and it works. Very, very smart way to do things. So here's some of our platforms that we do, the C90, the King of 200. We have 2 different models of the Caravan, the Cheyenne, and the Conquest 1. We have done about 50 Conquest 1s, is that right?
Yeah, just north.
So there's only 200 of them built, so we've already done 50 of the airplanes. Really makes it a nice airplane. Cheyennes were 50 or 60 Cheyennes. And then you get into the Caravans, and we're up north of 60 or 70 of those as well, right?
If you combine the 42 and 140s, we're getting close to 100 now.
Getting close to 100. I read somewhere that the path to success was like this, straight line, right? Here's the real path to success. You're always going around circles. We have been very fortunate in that a lot of our path to success, we've had roadblocks, we've had left turns, right turns, reverse course. So it's not an easy business, but we were able to do that and keep going. So we always run up against, should I overhaul or should I buy new? You look at the engine on the right is a brand new engine, and the one on the left is one that we pulled out. And again, we talked about that it's the minimum parts needed to call it an overhaul. Overhaul is a good option if you don't need more horsepower, you don't need more performance, and you're satisfied with what you have already. But with new, when every single part is new, and you get more performance, it just makes sense. It just makes a lot of sense. Warren Buffett said, price is what you pay, value is what you get. This is a big one for me. I really like this statement because we do get a lot of people say, wow, that's just a lot of money. Price is what you pay. But what's the value? What's the real value proposition? And that's what we try to sell. I tell my team early on, don't sell the price, sell what it will do for the customer. So you get a true airspeed increase of anywhere from 20 to 30 knots more on our 350 that we'll talk about here in a minute. Rate of climb increased by 40%. A lot of people don't think they need to climb that steep. What if you're in the mountains? What if there's rocks in the clouds? It'd be nice to be able to climb better. Higher cruising altitudes. A heavy 350 or a 200 with a stock engine, it struggles on a hot day to get to 350. But not with a Blackhawk engine. They get up there no problem. Increased mission capability. We talked about the skydivers, we talked about the Caravans operating in the jungle. There's a lot more mission capability there. Improved safety. If you have more horsepower and you lose an engine, you can climb on out. It's a nice feeling to have. And then the increased resale value. Blackhawk products always sell for much more than just an overhauled engine on an airplane. And then, best of all, you get some serious bragging rights. Who wants to say I have the slowest Kinger or the slowest airplane out there? They always want to say I've got the fastest one. And we get customers calls all the time. My airplane's faster than what you say it is. That's good. So, did I say resale value? We recently sold a 2005 King Air B200 that we purchased for resale. We put new engines on it, fresh inspections, only had 3,400 hours total time, and a Collins ProLine 21. Very good pedigree. We sold that airplane for $2.875 million. A new 250 is just south of $6 million. A similar non-Blackhawk airplane that had fresh overhauled engines on it sold for $2.350. That's a verified number. So we got a lot more money for the airplane, and the customer's extremely happy with it. He calls me weekly to tell me how happy he is with the airplane. So that's the Blackhawk advantage. New turboprop engine replacements instead of overhauls, more power, increased performance, like new for less money, high resale value. And don't forget, we also give every Blackhawk buyer a brand new, really cool leather jacket. In fact, a lot of the guys call us and they want one for their wife and their kids and all that stuff. But we do give them a new jacket. We tell them that it's a $800,000 jacket, but we're going to give the engine for free. So what's new? We just got approved, the STC, to put the PT6A 67A engine on the King Air 350. This is an exciting new product. We're very proud of it. From start to finish, we got the approval in 14 months. That is a phenomenal amount of time to get it approved. We approved it with an MT 5-blade composite prop. We will be working later in the year to approve the Hartzell 5-blade composite. We really like that composite prop. It saves about 25 pounds of weight, and it performs extremely well. It's very quiet, and the combination really makes it a nice airplane. So again, we replaced the 60A engines and the four-blade metal props, significantly increasing thermodynamic horsepower. So we get the thermodynamic horsepower is 600 more horsepower than the 60 Alpha. It's 300 as high, over 300 as high. Now, for the non-engineers in here, thermodynamic horsepower and mechanical horsepower do two different things. Mechanical horsepower is what the engine can handle basically on takeoff. The thermodynamic horsepower is what you have left to take you to altitude. So we can pull full horsepower to 22,000 feet. That's an amazing deal, and I've got to fly it. I'm not type rated 350, but they do let me ride right seat once in a while. So it's a pretty amazing climb. It's a heck of a ride. Best part, the Beechcraft certified the 67A on the 350 ER about 5-6 years ago. But they changed the mount, they changed the engine cowl, they changed everything from the firewall forward gets changed with all new stuff. Well, that's an expensive proposition to replace all that hardware and all that, the cowl and the inlet and exhaust and all that stuff to new. That's a lot of cost, a lot of labor, downtime. So we said, hey, let's just plug it in and see if it works. Of course, it's a lot more complicated than that, and Pratt said, wait, we need you to come down and check this out. So they send an engineer down and they instrument the inlet to make sure that we're not going to hurt the engine. And lo and behold, it worked fine. So we reuse the existing engine cowl, the mount and components, and it really does. We have a slight modification inside the cowl where one of the, it's not the firewall, it's baffle seal, has to be moved back about 1.5 inches. And then we modify the top of the cowl very, very slightly, just very, very minor modifications to it. So it makes it a lot more cost effective, controls the cost, and makes it easier to install. And then you have a much smoother, quieter cockpit and cabin due to the props and the engine itself. I could not believe how quiet the airplane is when you fly it. So you get some really serious climb performance. And I know it's probably a little bit hard to read, but if you look at the graph on the left, that's the 350 with the 67A. We can get to 35,000 feet at gross weight on a hot day in about 18 minutes, as compared to about 45 to 50 on the stock airplane. 18 minutes. That's a lot. That's a huge improvement. And what that means is you get to altitude faster where you can burn, your fuel flows come down, and you get up into the winds and stuff like that. You can really reduce your time to climb, your operating cost, your fuel burn over the length of a trip. And it does get up there. It's an amazing climb. So here's the speed comparisons. On an ISA plus 20 day, 350, we're 315 knots as opposed to with 267, and then at 280, we're 332 knots. These are conservative numbers. These are numbers with an ITT. For those that don't know what ITT is, the temperature of the engine is running about 75 to 100 degrees below red line to get these speeds. We tested it at full throttle and see what it would do. We were up around 345 knots. But Pratt doesn't like us to run it that hard, so we pull it back to a more nominal setting and still get 332 knots in a turboprop airplane. It's amazing. And then the last part is for the older people. You want to race for pink slips? A lot of the younger people don't know what that means. I haven't got anybody to take me up on that one. So what's new? Oh, that's what's new, I'm sorry. More powerful 67A engines, MT5 bladed prop, composite props, and then soon will be the Hartzell. Next up, we call it the big boy. Anybody know what a King Air 350 ER is? That's the 350 with big fat fuel tanks on the back. You can kind of see it on the back of this picture. They've got Beech 1900 landing gear, beefed up landing gear. The airplane is certified at 16,500 pounds. So they're still flying this airplane with the old 60 odd engines, and they're operating in the Middle East where the temperatures get up 120 degrees in summertime. And what you don't see on this airplane is most of the time they'll have a lot of stuff hanging off it. They'll have a belly pod, they'll have a EYR ball, a big radar ball off the back. They'll have antennas and what looks like a porcupine. So you're taking off and you're loaded up with fuel and you're loaded up with technicians in the back and you've got all this drag, and now you lose an engine or something, or somebody worse than that is shooting at you. It's nice to be able to climb out a little faster. So the 350ER, we have teamed up with Sierra Nevada Corporation. They're I'm sure you're all familiar with Sierra Nevada. They are one of the largest military contractors in the world, and we've been very fortunate to be able to team up with them. Our sister company, Vector Hawk Aerospace, who we are partnered with, Vector Aerospace with, they're our military branch, military operation, and government operation. So Sierra Nevada is recognized as one of the world's top 10 most innovative companies in the space. And once approved, SNC will have exclusivity to provide the 67A on the 350 ERs that weigh 16.5 or above. We will be approving the airplane at 17,500 pounds with a 67A. Can you imagine 17,500 pounds on a hot day? It needs that horsepower, desperately. And there's even talk, we've been hearing, that they want to raise it to 19,000 pounds. So that'll be interesting if that works out. So SNC will complete installations at their network of authorized installed facilities around the world. So Uncle Sam called and said, we need a little help. And aircraft are used for special missions at heavy weights and high density altitude operations. And as I said earlier, sometimes it's a little hostile environment they operate in. Stock aircraft suffer from marginal performance when flown heavy. And when we tested the ER with the stock engines on a hot Texas day, we flew it to 35,000 feet, and I want to say it took us, and this was not even at max cruise, we were at maybe 16,000 pounds. And it took a good hour to get to 35,000. Now it takes about 18, 19 minutes. And it gets real under gunfire. Our contact at Sierra Nevada used to fly this exact airplane over in the desert, and he says when they're shooting at you, it gets very tense. So they're having a limited climb in those hostile conditions can be very dangerous, and they're really looking forward to putting these engines on these airplanes so they can get out of harm's way. So the 67A and 350ER test program is underway. We've already completed several flights. We have to modify the ProLine 21 indicators so that the engine indication will read correctly. But so far, everything's looking really good. And we figure Q1 of 2018 we'll be able to deliver this to the customers. We already have several orders for the ER, and we currently have about 9 for the stock 350. We have 9 deposits with contracts on the regular 350 for the 67A. So engineering the Blackhawk way. Bob Cromer, our senior VP of engineering, you know, he's a great marketing guy, sales guy, and an engineer. I don't know how you stuff that into one guy's head, but he does a good job of it. And he said, well, I'm going to throw something in there about how we do things. So I said, okay. So he prepared these slides, and it shows the stock airplane when we first bought it, and then how it looks today with the swept props. The first step is we went airplane shopping. A lot of companies will contract with a customer and use their airplane, but we know these programs take a long time, and the customer, what I didn't want to hear was, is it ready, is it ready, is it ready, is it ready? So we go out and buy the airplane ourselves. We invest in it, pay for the airplane, bring it in, and modify it, and then do the flight testing. So this airplane now, since this picture was taken, we've put G1000 NXI in it. And Chris, who flies the airplane, he says, you cannot believe how great that airplane flies with that G1000 NXI. He loves it. Then we install all the test equipment. So, you know, gone are the days when you could just go out and fly it and write some stuff down on a chart and turn it in and say, we're done, we're good. Now we've got to be able to prove it. So all this test equipment gathers data on every flight. Everything is calibrated. You know, our airspeed indicator, we have a boom that we stick out on the nose to get proper airspeed indications. And this equipment generates a lot of heat in the cabin, so on a hot day it gets very interesting in the back. Yeah, no computer models at BMI, so we do it the old school way. We literally plug it in and make it fit. And then we do our drawings. And then we adjust the drawings. And then we readjust the drawings. And then once they're installed, we start it up. Pratt comes in, and Pratt has been a very good partner in helping us get these things approved. And we really appreciate what Pratt does for us. We installed the 5-blade props, and then the aircraft was conformed to all the drawings. So we have a guy has to come in and he has to look at our drawings and say, okay, this part must be installed in this position and this way. Is it? And they check everything that was in our drawings to make sure the airplane matches the drawings. Testing, testing, and more testing. So Bob had all this stuff on there, and I wanted to make it a little more interesting. So it's a sample of a few of the certification tests. Performance, zoom, zoom, go faster. Handling qualities, very sweet. Airplane handles just like the stock airplane, except that it goes a heck of a lot faster. Stability and control, very solid. We have to do rudder slams, where you slam the rudder to the floor as hard as you can, both directions, make sure it doesn't cause any problems. We do throttle slams. We take the throttles and you slam it forward, you slam it back, and that gets interesting. Structural integrity. It's a beach. It's a tough airplane. Now we are certifying the engine to the original takeoff horsepower of 1,050. The mechanical limitation on the 67A is 1,200. Why are we not approving it at 1,200? Because that requires a whole new game of testing on the airframe. You got to test literally the tail, the fuselage, load path. It gets very, very expensive. And sometimes you got to beef all that area up if you find any weakness. So all of our customers said, 1,050 is fine, we can use that. Beach even looked at it themselves, and they determined that the fuselage behind the door would have to be extensively modified and beefed up. So they didn't go that way either. Landing characteristics. It lands like a 350, no different. Kind of boring, actually. Vibration and flutter, we have to check for any kind of flutter, any kind of vibration. We have sensors all over the airplane that checks all that out. BMC and single engine performance. It's got to be able to climb out on one engine, and we want to make sure it's not going to roll over on us. We did a lot of BMC testing. And then the engine and accessory cooling. Does the starter generator get too hot? Does the prop governor get too hot? Is there exhaust too close and getting too hot on different components in the airplane? We have to test the bleed air coming into the airplane. Is the bleed air too hot? We have to test the oil temperature. and all passed. But we have to test it not for United States. We have to test it for the Middle East, because that's where a lot of these 350 ERs will be operating. And I mentioned that temperature of 120 degrees. That's a normal summer day in Iraq. It's very hot. So we have to make sure that that oil temperature, while he's out taxiing around, is not going to exceed the limitations of the engine. And we've tested it extensively, and it doesn't even get close. It does a really good job. So how do you spend a couple $1 million in 14 months? This is not a cheap thing to do. STC testing is a long and difficult road. The FAA requires extensive testing, Pratt requires extensive testing, our customers require extensive testing, and we require it. So we did 130 flights to get the initial STC, 170 flight test hours, and then the reports, the writing, the data crunching, the FAA coordination, and meeting with the FAA over and over and over, and just when you think you have all the questions answered, they come up with a whole new batch of questions. You gotta go back and answer those. But we're pretty good at it. To do it in 14 months is an amazing feat. Most STC programs of this extent is a 2 to 3 year program. And we knocked it out pretty fast. And I'm proud of my team for that. So we have some show specials. I haven't even seen this slide. $80,000 discount, wow. Surprise. We're giving, anybody signs up at the show, you get $80,000 discount. Who approved that? On the, that's on 135A for the 90 series or Conquest. On the 52 or 61, it's a $130,000 discount. And then on the 67A, it's a $100,000 discount. So let's get that out there and get some order books out. Thank you for attending. I appreciate everybody coming in today. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.